Welcome, my friend, to the Keeper of the Home podcast. I am so grateful to have you here. Whether you're joining me with my video podcast, which is hosted on my TIDBITS Company YouTube channel, or just tuning in on your favorite podcast platform, thank you so much for joining me. Now, whether you are a planning enthusiast or not, I really hope to show up here today for you to leave you with some planning tips or hacks or tricks, whatever you want to call them, that will just hopefully help you see how planning can help your days go a little smoother. So thank you so much for joining me on this podcast where we're going to talk planning hacks for the homemaker. First, I'd love to share some housekeeping items with you. I just first have to apologize. I slipped away for a couple of weeks and didn't have a new podcast for you. I am sorry about that, but life just got full and wonderful, and some things have to go when that happens. I had the amazing opportunity of hosting 4 of my YouTuber friends and blogger friends at my house. So that was fun to take a week off for that. And then we did a little family vacation to Bryce Canyon. Have you been there? It's just absolutely stunning. It was a first for me. It was so beautiful. So forgive me, I did leave you for a while, but on all these long drives, I actually did some great thinking about this podcast for you. And I will admit, I myself am a big time planner. If you've been with me the last few years, you already know that. However, this podcast is just really going to very lightly touch on a lot of the planning things that I do. So if you want more after listening to this, I will actually leave in the description a link to a PDF, I don't know if I'd call it an ebook or a guide, all about how I plan and how you can plan to structure your days. It's really detailed, totally free for you. You just are going to download it, no payment necessary, and look it over, and hopefully you'll get even more tips and tricks. If this just really piqued your interest and you want more information on planning, I will have that in the show notes or in the description for you. So please take advantage of that. And of course, since we're planning, I just have to do a little bit of shameless plug here. I do create like a full year planner for you. And in years past, I've been able to get those printed in bulk and bound for us. But because of the inflated cost, that was just not feasible for me this year to risk that for my family. So I apologize for that. However, I do have a really incredible option for the TIDBITS Day Planner this year, and that is a printable version, which can actually end up being cheaper and more affordable for you, depending on, how you want to bind it yourself. But the PDF itself is very affordable, and then you can go and get that printed at a print shop, or if you have a home printer, just print it out. So anyway, I have that option. It's the same amazing pages that have been in my TIDBITS Day Planner in years past. Of course, it's dated for 2024, which always kind of feels weird to say that. It just being the year ahead. I can't wrap my head around that we're already in 2024. Anyway, you can check out the 2024 TIDBITS Day Planner printable on my shop, which is at tidbitsandco.com, or you can head to the blog, tidbitsandcompany.com, and then just click over to the shop from there. You should be able to find it pretty easily. And I do have some binding ideas for you if you're just kind of stumped on how you can print this out and bind it and make it look pretty. I do have some really good ideas on the listing itself where you go and look at the planner pages. So I hope that is very helpful. And then just a couple more things. If you're not subscribed to my newsletter that you might have missed on my channel, on my blog, I have put up all my fall home tours. So you can find the full home tour of my house decorated for fall on my YouTube channel, or see each space broken down and resources right on my blog. So I think there are 4 posts on my blog for each space that I decorated for fall. And then of course you can tour it via video if that's what you prefer, but that is out. It was really, really fun to create. And I also did a kids bedroom makeover. So if you love makeovers, definitely check that out on the blog and channel. And of course, I would love to have you subscribe to my weekly newsletter. I love to send out cool things there, so definitely check the description or the show notes to get signed up. And that is all the housekeeping for today, because I want to get right into talking about planning. I am so passionate about this because it makes such a difference in my life. Now, I have a quote in my TIDBITS Day Planner, And I'm quoting myself, actually. That feels weird sometimes, but this was a thought that I had at one time and thought it would make a great inspirational quote. So I like to say that planning is a precious gift to your past, present, and future self. And I want to explain to you what I mean by that. And let's look at each the past, present, and future and kind of get an idea of how planning your life can help with those things. Now, I feel like it's really important to learn from the past. So let's talk about the past. Now, when we actually sit down to plan and we try to figure out how to structure our life, or we try to figure out better ways of doing things, it is actually our past experiences that govern the choices that we make. So when we are planning, we are actually using the experiences from the past, and we're building on the knowledge that we gained from our experiences and making improvements in our lives. So it's so important to recognize our past selves and honor that past self, and then make the improvements based on the experiences that our past has taught us. So that is something to think about, how planning can help you there. Now, as far as the present situation, planning, of course, helps immensely for the present day or week that we are in. And when we have a well-planned day, a couple of things can happen. The biggest thing I find is that I decrease my overwhelm. When I have a plan and I can see how things can get accomplished, of course, it's very important to be reasonable with your planning and realistic. But when that is all written down and in front of me, I can see how it's all possible, and it completely helps with my overwhelm. When all I have is just all these things of to-dos and things that I want to get done just fogging up my brain, that's when overwhelm happens. So it can be such a gift to your present self to plan and ease some of that overwhelm. I have also found that planning in the present helps me live in the present moment. And again, as homemakers, we love to multitask, or I should say our brains love to multitask. How hard is it to actually be in the moment with somebody or some kind of task? I find it to be very difficult to slow my brain down and not be thinking about maybe the next thing I gotta do, or what I just did, or all the noise, right? So when we have a plan down on paper, it can help you just let go of that noise. And it is so helpful to help us just be in the moment with the people that we love, that need us in that moment, or the task that we love or not love doing at that moment. But just being present can really help our stress levels and help us find more joy in the things that we're doing. And now let's talk about our future self. So much of the things that I plan are actually being done with my future self in mind. So when I'm sitting down to plan a garden, of course I'm planning for that future garden, but I also plan knowing that I will need to look back maybe in years after the current year, and I'll need to refer to that planning that I did to make better choices for the next garden. Or maybe I'm planning out birthdays, and that act of planning will actually help me for the next birthdays that are coming up, or events. We have a pretty busy homestead with animals and things, and we have to plan out when we're getting those animals. We have to plan maybe when the chickens are going to start laying eggs. We have to do that planning, and we constantly look back and refer to that planning that we did in the moment for several years to come. So it is such a gift to your future self to do that. It's kind of like thinking of a planner as another way to record your life or have a record of the things. How did I do that? When did I do that? And it can be so very helpful. Now, planning also makes me more productive because I don't kind of squander my time. I know that I've got to get certain things done, so I'm going to use my time more wisely if I have a plan in place. And because I'm being more productive in the present moment, it actually helps it so that my future self can see more growth and more progress, and it is just such a gift for the future Cami. And these are things that as I've really honed in on planning, that I have noticed a big improvement in my life just because I've gotten into the habit of planning. So whether you're a planner or not, I hope that kind of helped you see how this might benefit your life. So I want to share 5 planning hacks for the homemaker, and maybe one will resonate with you. Maybe all of them will, or maybe none of them will, but hopefully you get a little tidbit here to take with you to help you with your planning. So hack number 1 is to plan your year, always. Now, what does that mean? It means that you're going to take 12 months, and you can start that now. You can do that in January with like New Year's goals, but whatever the case may be, think of 12 months at a time. So you can start now. If you're behind, just think of from here until a year from now, every month you're going to write down big projects that you would like to get done in that month. You might even like to plan for yearly trips at that time. Or you might have one big project that you need to get done. Say like you want to deep clean your whole house, but maybe you want to take it slower and break that down with like January is going to be the bedrooms, February we're going to hit the bathrooms. But just think of like those really big things and figure out how you can break them down in a year's time. So you might be asking yourself, why would I do that? When so many of my best laid plans end up getting changed anyway. And I hear you, and I am right there with you. I always look back at my yearly plan and think, oh, I kind of veered off a little. However, I want to compare this to like, I'm sure you've heard this analogy, but say you're trying to look at a beautiful piece of art, but you're trying to look at it through just a tiny pinhole. You really can't see the big picture. You can only look at tiny sections at a time, compared to looking at that whole piece of art without any obstruction of your viewpoint. And planning our year can kind of act like looking at the whole picture at one time, and we can kind of see how all the little things we're going to do are going to create our year. It can really help us get a sense of our priorities and to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. And even if your plans don't go as planned, it still acts as a really good guiding star, if you will. It puts you on the right direction. It gives you something to work towards, and just really helps you see where do I want to be a year from now? What do I want to have accomplished in a year from now? And then just give yourself the gift of planning that year out so that you have a guiding star pointing you in the right direction. Now, what's really interesting after I've done this for so many years is when I look back at that year plan and realize that some things just didn't get done. For me, this is like scrapbooking or photo albums. It's like been on my list for so long, but it's just that one thing that I write down every year, but for some reason it doesn't get done. And I always have to ask myself why. Like, I've been given the time of 12 months of the year. Why did this thing that seems so important at the onset not get done? And it's really helpful to take that time to evaluate. Maybe you need to evaluate if it's really that important to you, or maybe you just need some help with it. You can kind of think those things through. And so it's just a really good idea to do that. Now, it does not have to be complicated, okay? You do not need to like write out everything. You don't need to have everything done. Use a pencil. I always use a pencil for my yearly planning. But for me, I just have 2 simple pages at the beginning of my planner that have every month of the year with just a few empty note spaces under them. And I just write some of the big things and break them down that I want to get done. It's not complicated. It's not set in stone, but it is so extremely helpful. I also, at the same time, find it helpful to plan with my husband. Even now that my kids are getting older, it's helpful to sit down with them and help them through this process as well, so that you're all kind of on the same page. Very helpful. And again, I just want to like bring this back to the homemaker. We have so many things that we do during the day that are just familiar work. We're not using the word mundane, right? You listen to my other podcast. We don't use the word mundane. We use familiar work. And we also have really big projects that we need to accomplish. That could be like big cleaning things we need to get done, organizing. Maybe we need to orchestrate learning in our home, or certain tasks for our kids and husband, or maybe we have some learning goals or projects that we need to do for ourselves. Regardless, we have so many big things in our lives that are actually really vital to keeping a home running smoothly. And if we don't make the space for them in our lives, I think we'll find that the time just slips away and we haven't accomplished those things. So get really focused on your priorities a year at a time and see if that helps you. All right, let's move on to hack number 2, which is to designate specific days or maybe even weeks to certain tasks. Now, this will not work for everyone. I've suggested this to some people and they just, hills in the sand, will not embrace this idea. And that's okay if that is you. Totally okay. This will not work for everyone. And I'm fully aware of that. I have found that some people really feel imprisoned to this type of thinking or planning. So if you feel an inkling while I'm talking about this of that same feeling, just let it go, okay? We'll move on to hack number 3 very soon. However, if you are the type that is really struggling with feeling overwhelmed and like there's just too many things to do and not enough time in the day, this hack really could help you. So first, let me give you some examples of how this concept might work. So you might have like designated laundry days. For my mom, I think it was Wednesday. That was her laundry day. That's pretty much all she did. And she didn't worry about the rest of the week. That worked for her. That actually doesn't work for me, mainly because I have everyone in this household do their own laundry, but that's kind of the concept I'm talking about. Maybe you get overwhelmed with like the idea of cleaning the whole house in an entire day or even week. So maybe you could say like the first week of the month is for bathrooms and the second week of the month is for bedrooms. Or even look at the times of the day and just know that like 4 o'clock is like clean up dishes, prep dinner time. And this is just a few examples. This can look a lot of different ways for you, but hopefully that gets you thinking. And I actually do this a lot for my business because I have so many moving parts. It's not feasible for me to be thinking about them all at the same time. So I have podcast weeks and that's when I film like 4 or 5 podcasts in that week. And then the next week I might get all the blog posts written and prepped. And then the next week after that is do a month's worth of YouTube videos. So that compartmentalized thinking works really good for me in a lot of areas of my life and then other areas where it doesn't. So think about that. Think if there's things that are just really overwhelming you, how that might work for you. And I think it works for people that are especially prone to feeling overwhelmed easily because we have a hard time letting things go. And so when we know that there's a designated time and space for these things that are overwhelming us, it is much easier to let them go. At least that is how I function. And this thinking and planning method has really, really quite helped me. So I hope it's a good tip for you as well. And I just want to like put this thought out there. I've talked to you guys a lot about cycle syncing. It's something that I'm learning. So many of us as keepers of the home are women. So we have a monthly cycle. And the book In the Flow was a book that really opened my eyes up to this. And I have lately been trying to sync the things in my life, like the tasks and things that I have to do with my cycle. How this looks is in the follicular phase, which is the phase right after you bleed. You're getting a rush of new blood and hormones are starting to lift again. And this actually leads to a lot of blood flow to the brain. So I have found, and other women have found, that that is a time of the month where we're just full of ideas and we can really sit and think things through better. as compared to like maybe doing harder tasks, things that take more like physical work. So actually, I usually do my podcast week during my follicular phase because I have to, this is more of a thinking and brain space task for me. And so I'm able to do that with more ease during that week. During the ovulatory phase, it's a great one to just be around people. This is when maybe you have a household task that you need to get done. Turn on some music, you're feeling really social and upbeat, and you have this energy and you like to be around people, so get people involved. Oftentimes that's when, like if I've got to clean the house, I'm busting the music and getting my kids in there with me, and it's quite a more cheerful time. And then in the luteal phase, which is the longest phase, it is compared to our nesting phase. And this is when I just want people out of my way. Leave me alone. I am feeling actually really overwhelmed during this stage with mess and clutter. And so I just get, push up my sleeves and get going on it. And that actually fuels me, and that feels easier to do during that time of the month. And of course, the menstrual phase is a time of rest. We are going to be a little tired, so you need to make sure that you're not overdoing it, that whatever you have planned for that week is more of a lighter load. So I'm just barely dipping my toes in here, you guys. There's so much more to learn, but I have found that planning my life with my menstrual cycle or my monthly cycle is, I don't want to say I've just never felt more balanced. It's quite amazing. Anyway, I really want to dive deeper into all this with you, and I have a few ideas of how I can do that, but I just definitely wanted to bring that up here so that as women, we can be more aware of that. And in case you're wondering, Cami, you should make a planner for our monthly cycle. Definitely something on my to-do list, and I hope to provide for you guys in the new year. So hang on for that. All right, so hack number 3 has to do with time blocking. And I'm sure you've run across this term, or maybe you haven't, and that's okay. But this is for like the really full schedule people, okay? You have so many plates spinning and time blocking can be extremely helpful. I have to say, there have been times in my life where this like would not have been needed at all when my kids were all very little and we basically didn't leave the house. I can't imagine any need for time blocking. I didn't need to time block, snack time or, nap time. Like those things were just part of a rhythm. But if you have a full schedule and a lot of people doing a lot of things in your house, time blocking can be extremely helpful. So let me explain kind of what this looks like. It's really helpful if you can have planning sheets. Maybe you just make your own. But if you can find a planner with like hourly time blocks, it works really well. You can just kind of like do brackets or color code, however that works for your brain. But for me, for example, I know like from like 6 to 7:30, that time is blocked out for, me getting up and doing some self-care. And then I know 7:30 to 11 is like all kids. I'm all in with the kids and breakfast and homeschool. And I really have to allow myself to focus on them during that time. And then maybe from like 11 to 2 is work time. And then maybe from like 2 on is just free time or just open for household things or maybe some fun things I want to do with the kids. That time blocking, what it does for me is it allows me, again, to just kind of let go of the other spinning plates, knowing that there's a time and a place for them, that I don't need to be thinking about them all the time. That's just really, really helpful if you have a full schedule and a busy head. Okay, let's talk about hack number 4. This is like one of my favorites, mainly because I'm a planner addict in recovery, I guess. And this is something I've really been learning the last year or so, and it's made a big difference. It is to not plan everything. Resist the urge to write out everything in your day that's going to go on. And this can really liberate yourself, whether you're a planner enthusiast or not. But we just have to have it. We have to allow free space in our life where nothing is planned. It is so good for our mental health. It is so good for our relationships. And it's just liberating, really. So we don't want to become slaves to our planner. It's great to use a planner to support you, but we don't want to be a slave to it, which honestly, I'm a little guilty of. So what I have found to avoid this is, one, I do not plan my hobbies anymore. One of my hobbies, at least I'm trying to keep it a hobby, is learning about medicinal herbs and things. And I used to and herb gardening. Anyway, I used to just plan out, okay, now I'm going to harvest the mint, or I'm going to read this book. I used to literally write that on my planner, and it just ended up being something on my to-do list. And then it wasn't fun anymore, or I felt guilt for not getting to it. So I have just decided absolutely not. The things that are just for me, or maybe just for my family for fun, they are not allowed in my planner. And it's really helpful. It just helps me kind of protect those things. My planner is about structure and productivity and growth, but my hobbies should just be about, joy. And so I try to avoid planning out my hobbies. And then the other thing you want to keep in mind is to be really generous with your time blocking. That will help you not become a slave to your planner. So I gave you the example of 2 o'clock on, I'm done with work. We're done with homeschool. However, some household work or maybe even more homeschool fun will happen after 2 o'clock, but I'm just going to roll with it. It's going to be the things that I really enjoy doing, and I'm going to allow myself plenty of hours in the day to let that happen and to let things just happen because we want them to, that I don't actually have to write them down for them to happen. And being generous with your time blocking also means being really realistic with your energy. Don't shove a task in such little time that it takes a huge amount of energy to get it done in that amount of time. That will make you a slave to your planner and will really steal the joy from so many of the tasks that you need to do. Another way I protect my mental health by not planning too much is to not plan Saturdays and Sundays. There's space for it in my planner, but guess what? I just leave them empty. That allows me to be more spontaneous. Maybe on Sundays we end up going over to families to visit or have dinner with them. Or maybe on Saturdays we want to be spontaneous and go for a hike or go do something fun. If I've just not written anything in my planner, not committed tasks to those days, it helps me protect recreational time, which is really, really important and actually difficult for me to do. So I have to be very careful about not over planning so that I can protect space for those types of things. I hope that's helpful and gives you plenty of food for thought. All right, last hack number 5, plan with others. So if you are living with people or you engage with people a lot, whether that's family, kids, spouse, friends, neighbors, whatever the case may be, try planning with them. And I think it's a great thing to do to teach your kids, if you're a parent and have kids in the home right now. What a great thing to do to help them learn how to plan and structure their day. So get them involved when you can. And I don't know if I am just speaking for my husband, but sometimes he can flounder and he doesn't know what to do. And so I sit down and plan with him, and then I see him, take off and go and be really productive. So it helps for us to plan together. And I actually have an open planner policy. And if you're on video with me, you can see here, my planner is always open here at my desk. Family can come and go, look at it as they please, add to it if they need to. But it's really helpful to have this open planner policy in our home because so many times the kids need to check, what do we have going on today? Or husband needs to look at it and say, can I go out and work for the rest of the day? Do I need to help with any transporting of kids? Or what do we have going on? Instead of just trying to keep all that in my brain, I just say, go look at the planner. It's all down there, which is really, really helpful to just be on the same page and help plan with everyone. In an ideal week, I do like to sit down with my husband on Sunday evenings and go over all that. Doesn't always happen, but that is helpful. But we do always have a yearly planning session together. It's like my favorite date night. You guys, that's how nerdy I am. But we go to a restaurant, bring our planners and notebooks, and really look over the year and figure out what our priorities are together and how we can support each other and help each other. It's so amazing to do that with others. I know a lot of people actually love to use digital planners that like sync together like a Google Calendar. A lot of families have made that work. I don't like digital planning. I'm super old school and I just like paper and pencil. Let me know if you're the same way, but you can definitely find so many apps and options for digital calendars and planners to work with other people. So that might be something fun for you to look at. All right, let's wrap this up, my friend. Thank you for staying with me. But if you liked any of these suggestions and you're looking for a planner, I have some tips of what to look for. There are so many planners on the market. And, because I can't offer a bound one, you might need to look somewhere else this year, and that's okay. But here are the things that I suggest you look for, and actually what I look for in a planner. Of course, I want a monthly calendar. That is so important. Some planners don't have that. They just have the weeks. So make sure that you have a monthly planner where you can write down important events, birthdays, dates, and stuff like that. And then I really like to have a planner that has list space, like empty note space and empty headings so I can customize it. But I like that extra list spaces to be included in like a monthly planning sheet and in the weekly spreads. That's really helpful for me. I use those spaces a lot in my planning for these kind of concepts that I've just told you about. And then I really like the daily space as well for like a list of to-dos. So again, I'm looking for a planner that has yearly planning capacity, monthly planning, weekly planning, and daily planning, and even hourly planning all in one. It's really hard to find one, you guys, like that, which is why I designed my own. But if you can find one that has all those, I think it's going to be really helpful for these hacks that I've shared. And then of course, I love the hourly blocks. If you're the full schedule kind of person, that's going to be really helpful for you, but not everyone needs that. So anyway, shameless plug. Again, if like these concepts appeal to you, please go over to tidbitsandco.com and check out my 2024 planner pages. You might love them. You might want to just print them out and give it a try. And definitely check out the link below for that planning guidebook that I created for you to dive even deeper. So many tips that I just shared today. I would love to hear from you. I bet you've got some great tips for me. I'd love reading your comments, you guys. I don't always get back to them. Truly sorry about that. I've toyed with the idea, do I hire someone to moderate my comments or just not respond, because I definitely can't get to them all myself. But so far I haven't done that, but I want to promise you I read every single comment you send me. I actually make sure they go to my email and open every single one. I love to hear from you guys. So if you can't comment on your podcast platform that you're listening to, please head over to my YouTube channel and find the video. That's really easy to leave comments there. So I just love to hear from you. And if you have planning hacks for us that have helped you in your life, we would love to hear from you and connect with you in the comments and just build this community of homemakers who are trying to figure out how to do all the things. Thank you so much for tuning in, my friend. I will be back very soon to share more inspiration for the keeper of the home.